Welcome to Overeducated and Underemployed. I'm Feddun. This week we have Jason Nesmith, who is a member of the Shut Ups. He's also part of the Pylon Reenactment Society. If you're familiar with the band Pylon, check that out. Also known as Casper Fandango of Casper and the Cookies. And we had Ben Spraker on a couple weeks ago, who is also in a Shut Ups. Ben was also in a band called the Arcs with Kevin Lane, who was on the show last week. So I've decided to call this little 3-part series here the Shut Ups Arc. Anyway, so he's the mastering engineer at Chase Park Transduction Studios in Athens, Georgia. And I think really just reading his bio from their site is a really good way to introduce him. After graduating from the Berkeley College of Music with a degree in music production and engineering, Jason joined 100 bands and recorded 100 more. His clients kept asking him to master their records until he accidentally got good at it. Now he masters projects for international or local artists in any genre of music. Recent projects include work for the Allman Brothers Band, Roy Buchanan, Magna Pop, Fred Schneider, and the Superions, and Rat Babies. Also, the Complete Decoration Day that just got announced this week for those Drive-By Truckers fans out there. We did not talk about that because it had not been announced yet. We only talked about it off of the podcast. I'm really excited for the rest of this box set. Jason Nesmith, and I wish we had more time to talk about his music because we didn't get into that as much as I would have liked, but we got into stuff that we haven't really talked about with anybody else on this podcast before. And we did talk about his music some, but I'm really excited for y'all to hear this conversation. Here's Jason Nesmith and I. Check it out. Hey, Jason.
Hey, so do you go by, you like to be addressed as Feddun or?
On the podcast and
Okay.
on stage, yeah. If we're just hanging out, you can call me either one.
All right.
I'll give you a little background about why I go by that. I started doing improv comedy in virtual reality during the pandemic, and I wasn't even doing stand-up comedy yet. But that was my online name, my gamer tag or whatever. So that's
Okay.
what everybody was calling me when I did that. And then there was karaoke nights, and I'd go to karaoke. And it started to become a thing where people would call me by that, and I'd respond, and it's
I
been,
get it, man.
Yeah.
I had a name given to me by somebody, Casper Fandango.
Oh, okay.
And when I moved to town, people were calling me Casper because my band was Casper and the Cookies, but I never wanted to be Casper, even though I set it up.
That's how nicknames work, right?
Yeah. No, man, call me Bartholomew. That's not how it works.
Yeah. Maybe I've cheated the system a little bit. If you can make your name whatever you want online and then perform there,
That's a good cheat, yeah.
they're letting me get away with it so far. We'll see. We're on Overeducated and Underemployed. I'm here with Jason Nesmith, who is, I don't even know where to start with you, member of Pylon Reenactment Society. You're the senior mastering engineer at Chase Park Transduction. Member of the Elephant Six Collective, if I'm not mistaken.
I would put myself at the outer orbits.
Yeah.
I'm
I
like
feel like everybody
I'm like
says
the Pluto. Yeah, no. Unless you're Will, Bill, Jeff, or Robert, and even John Fernandez has been around those guys for a long time. Whatever. That's a whole other. That's a very deep. But yeah, I am involved in that, and
when you've mastered a lot of those records and stuff
yeah,
like that.
I've played in a bunch of those bands
Yeah.
off and on, and
Oh, cool.
and sometimes I've been in bands like the Casper and the Cookies project was one that some people consider to be part of it and others do not, and that's fine.
We'll let them decide.
Yeah,
We will.
it's not for me to claim or disclaim.
So those are just some of the highlights. We'll get into a lot more than that, but I want to start with the question I ask everybody off the bat. And what's the first song that you remember loving as a kid?
It was definitely going to be a Beatles song.
Mine was.
Yeah, I don't know exactly which one it was, to be honest, but I'll give you two answers. One's a Beatles song. I'll give you three. Sorry. She Loves You, because it starts deceptively. It starts on the relative minor, and you don't know where you are for a minute. The ground keeps shifting below you, and then you hit that verse, and you feel like you've arrived somewhere. And I just thought that was a great trick. For some reason, it just seemed like such an important moment, and that stuck with me. That little, give them something they don't expect, and then resolve it.
Yeah, resolve is the word I was just thinking. Exactly, yeah.
When I was a little, I think I'm Not in Love by 10cc came out when I was 2 or 3.
Nice.
And I did not understand what I was hearing, but I knew it was just like sonically magic. And that's been a little bit of a siren song too. And Rubber Band Man by the Spinners was around the same time. And that just is such a kinetic song. So those, you asked for one and I give you 3, but pretty good 3.
At what point do you think you realized that you were just really into music and not just into this song or this artist is interesting, but I just love music?
I don't remember not being really into music. It just was that way the whole time.
Were you like creative with it off the bat? Did you so I was just talking to Kevin and he was like banging on Cool Whip containers, and that was like the beginning of something. It wasn't like something he did and then stopped and went back to, like, it was like he almost feels like there was never a time where he wasn't creating. Do you relate to that too?
I do. Yeah. I had a toy drum set when I was a little kid, and so I pretended that I had a band, but it was just me. I didn't really have any songs yet. There was like a poem in the beginning of a children's book called Annie's Rainbow. I can't remember what the words were, but okay, that's my first song. It's this little 4 lines right here in the beginning of this book. And I was probably 4 or 5, something like that.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. So everything I've done, it's almost been predestined in a way. It's weird now that I'm an audio engineer that I don't write as much as I used to, because I thought that was my destiny. So I'm actually in a different place. I guess I've fallen off of that rail, that predestination rail, but that's okay.
But it sounds like you knew what world you belonged in from a very young age.
Yeah.
And that's something that's rare, I think.
I think so. When I hear some people talk about, you get into music so that you can meet women or whatever, meet men, or whatever it is. Everybody does that. Anybody who says that is lying to you. Like, I didn't know what any of that was about. I just loved music.
I loved music way before I cared about girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my career in music is not, it did result in me meeting the love of my life, but I didn't have a lot of conquests along the way. You know what I mean?
That's just like when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Then you meet the right people.
Exactly. Yeah.
What was the first? So when was the first time you like wrote a song instead of just stealing a children's poem?
Let's see. So the first song that I wrote that I didn't steal, I guess maybe the first decent song that I wrote was, I think I was 11 years old and I wrote a song called I've Had Enough.
What had you had enough of?
Of people being mean.
Was that something you like dealt with a lot? Were you like dealt with bullies and stuff as a kid?
Yeah, I was bullied as a kid. I mean,
yeah. I definitely was too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I had friends.
Yeah.
At least a couple of times I had a friend who turned into a bully, but whatever.
Yeah.
But I had I had a few very close friends most of my life, yeah.
So was like dealing with that what kind of drove you to write that song in the first place, or
yeah,
did it just happen? And
I think I felt like I finally had a topic I knew something about. I had a feeling I needed to get down.
And it was a way that you could almost like, maybe not totally super publicly, but it's not just like a letter you're writing to yourself or something. This is something that potentially you could use to tell them to fuck off with.
Yeah, I didn't have anywhere that kind of confidence. Like I don't think I played that song for anybody. I think I copied it for one friend 2 or 3 years later, and he copied it for somebody else, and it felt like a betrayal. That was for you, nobody else. I got over it, obviously, but
Yeah.
it was a pretty private thing. I needed the Beatles to write a song for me, but they weren't going to do it, so I did it for myself. Or something
I love
like that.
That's awesome. So at what point did you start feeling more comfortable starting to share some of your songs? Because it sounds like you were pretty private about it. Was that always the case, or was it unique to that first song?
I had to really gently dip my toe into sharing it with other people. I had a next door neighbor who he's still 5 years older than me. And he wrote some songs, and he didn't mind hanging out with somebody who was like a preteen when he probably was interested in like meeting girls or whatever. But we hung out and we wrote songs together. Like he would bring in some stuff, and we weren't good, but
Did he need a bass player? Is that what you're?
I've got a tape of that. You don't want to listen to it, but it's fun. Like it's pretty funny to listen to this guy who's already got a deep voice and this little kid.
Like that Partridge Family record.
Exactly. And then I met this guy named Christopher Snell. And I went to a new school, and
Where did you grow up?
in town Atlanta,
Okay.
which is weird. That's a whole subject because I know that a lot of people that you talk to are Southerners, and Atlanta is arguably in the South, but not entirely of the South. Like,
Yeah.
and that's a deep subject.
There's a lot of Florida that's like that too.
And a lot of it is, I'm sure much of Atlanta is Southern, but not where I was necessarily. It's where a lot of people in the South didn't feel comfortable outside of in-town Atlanta.
Oh, so it was like one of the white flight kind of suburb areas, or?
No, it was like next to Piedmont Park.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there was
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
The neighborhood I was in was very upper middle class, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But there were
Gentrified.
yeah, I don't know. I
Maybe
don't know if
before
this-
that was a thing, even.
possibly. I don't even know if this was a neighborhood that had ever been anything other than upper middle class.
I see. Okay.
The houses were all nice.
Yeah.
We were near Piedmont Park and Ansley Mall and Midtown Atlanta. And there was a large gay population. There were a lot of Jewish people around. And before that, I'd gone to a school where there was busing back and forth between the affluent neighborhoods and some of the poor neighborhoods.
Right.
And so I met a lot of different people from different backgrounds that way. I had a lot of black friends of different economic households, and it was a really good way to meet a lot of different kinds of people, I think.
And it's really hard to develop any kind of class consciousness if you don't start meeting people that.
Yeah.
And I think like that could be a whole other thing, but class consciousness, I think, is really important to like understanding and being like empathetic. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure like most artists are like seeping with empathy, even if they don't want to admit it, right?
Yeah, I've developed a theory that I don't know how to tell them apart until you meet them, but I think there are some artists who appear to have empathy, can write from a place of empathy, but don't actually possess it. Not in the quantity that you might think by listening to their lyrics.
And do you think that they sing those songs convincingly?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I don't think every artist has empathy. Not every artist displays empathy. But yes, I agree with the main point is that most of them probably do, because you're absorbing, it's not just your own history, but the histories of people around you and talking to them and getting their feelings. And yeah.
And I guess what I was pointing out too was that even though you grew up in this like upper middle class neighborhood where there wasn't like a lot of economic diversity, you had already developed some class consciousness by being on those bust schools.
Yeah.
So by the time you weren't it was like you were aware of it at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you were very aware. It sounds like you were very aware of the fact that you weren't in a super like diverse situation anymore.
Yeah, but I could walk out my door and walk down the street and see diversity and be in it then, or go visit. I had friends at school who lived in the projects, and I would go hang out with them sometimes on the weekends and be like, wow, this is really different.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I couldn't write. I had to write for me. I couldn't put myself in that I have empathy, but I can't assume somebody else's.
Yeah, there's some songwriters who, and I think even very authentically so sometimes, write from the perspective of a character or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're saying that's not something you ever do. Your songs are always from your point of view.
I've tried it. I guess I have written some songs from characters, but it's not a super strength of mine.
Yeah.
Now the guy that I was talking about that I met at school, Christopher Snell.
Snell, yeah.
He goes by Don Condescending in the shut-ups. And he was writing from a character perspective from a pretty young age. I think he was also writing short stories, had other aspirations for his writing other than songwriting, and was able to work from a character perspective from a young age, and that's served him well, I think. And that's why I'm
Gotcha.
I've stood by him for decades because nobody else is doing this.
What were some of the first times you started to find your voice? And I think we're always, maybe you never fully find your own, but you get what I mean, where you stop trying to be the Beatles and write this song, or stop trying to be something else or trying to be like someone else and been like, no, this is how I sound, this is how I feel.
Yeah, that's a damn good question. I don't know what the answer is to it. I think I've tried various ways of writing to see what that'll result in. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't sound like somebody else, it must sound like me. And you can hear little hints of things like, okay, that's a big star harmony change right there, or whatever. But if it's not too much like somebody else, then okay, it came out of me, that's me.
Do you think as you started to find your authentic voice, or whatever we want to call it, the ability to speak to be you in your songs instead of what you thought other people wanted to hear or something like that, do you think that correlated with like your comfort level in releasing your music and sharing it with other people?
Maybe. So here's I played with Richard Lloyd of television for a year, and one of the things he said to me, and he said he was often gruff, and one of the things he said was like, if you don't have your own style, get one. But he didn't know me that well. And the thing is, I'd had my own style. My own style is variety. I don't go from I write this kind of a song.
Right.
Now, certain kinds of songs come out of me, and mostly they are more melody based. Whether it's on 1 chord or 24 chords, I'm a more melodic writer. It didn't correspond with me releasing music, because I think I was doing that the whole time, like writing. I feel this kind of way, I'm going to write this kind of song. It's for somebody else to say whether I have a genre, and I think that's been been probably an issue, the genre issue for me.
You mean in terms of like marketability or something like that?
Yeah. Like I appreciate artists who, some would say that's a challenge. So I'm not talking about Elvis Costello, where okay, this is a record, this is my country record, and this is my string quartet record, and that kind of thing. It's not necessarily like that, but a lot of people do like consistency, and that's not what I ever offered.
Do you think that you struggled with that, like within the same albums, or more like over time, like album to album?
I think inconsistency has been consistent. for me, not in terms of quality necessarily, but like in terms of style. And part of it is that I always liked artists who took something that you were familiar with and gave you discomfort and then resolved it, like She Loves You.
Yeah.
On a small scale. So I heard a Steve Reich record when I was probably 13 years old, and it changed a lot of stuff in my brain. And from that point on, I think I was trying to find things that were outside of the comfort area of pop music and bring them into pop music.
Gotcha.
You might not even notice that it was an influence from something like that, but that's how I arrived at the place where I felt this is original enough and I like it. So I'm gonna present it to people.
Have you ever released music you didn't feel like you liked?
No.
I'm not sure if any. I don't know. I'm sure people have with big label deals and things like that, but
yeah, we never had that kind of pressure. There's definitely stuff that I've recorded and didn't release because I didn't like it. Like I've gotten close. That's not bad, but and maybe there's stuff that I've put like up on the internet for free and then didn't push it as a release because I'm not so sure about that one.
Yeah. You're writing songs at an early age. You're not sharing them, but when did you form your first band? Who did you start playing with?
All right. So Chris and I, in 6th grade, started to get together.
You were in 6th grade?
Yeah, both of us were.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Chris was the same age as you. The other.
Yeah. The other guy was. Yeah, sorry. So Christopher Snell, aka Don Condescending, we had a band called The Bad Habits, spelled with 2 B's, because you spell badly, and that's a bad habit. Anyway, that was the low-level joke that kept this project going for a while. We would get together at lunchtime, and it took us a long time to play out in front of people, but we did. But the real project was to show your song to somebody that you trusted to give you positive or like critical feedback on it. So it was school. It was just another form of school, and that made me a good enough writer or a confident enough writer to then get into situations where I was putting myself in front of an audience. I had eventually, my family moved to, it was West Germany at the time.
Okay.
And I met some German kids who needed a lead singer, and me being an American was a big plus for them.
That's a novelty over there.
Yeah, they probably still do like to listen to rock and roll in English. So they're like, get this kid. So then they'd already been a band for a little bit. They had an audience of German kids that would come to see them. So I was writing and performing songs for a built-in audience. And these guys,
that's wild.
It was weird because their music style was much more, they dug Starship and the Scorpions and things that I didn't listen to.
Oh, yeah.
Very commercial sort of stuff, but I was going to write for this music. Okay, here we go. Anyway, so that was the first live band that I was in.
Did you find it hard to share songs that at that point, or had you worked past that? Or was that like the trial by fire?
That was, part of it was like there was a little bit of pressure off because they weren't going to criticize my lyrics.
They weren't necessarily speaking English. They just wanted to listen to it in English.
Yeah. I was actually still singing some of the old songs that their previous singer had written in English, which were like, "You're hot as sun," like that kind of that level of writing in English. I'm going to sing this broken English. Anyway.
That's, wow.
It's funny.
That's awesome.
But it still was like it was a confidence boosting experience to be on stage.
Yeah.
With an audience.
And it's an audience of people that you weren't, it's not like it was all the kids you grew up with.
Yeah.
It's not like it was the kids that lived down the street. You might see these people in Germany, but it wasn't like your hometown.
I wasn't going to see them at school even. Like my school friends didn't. Because I was in an international school. They didn't go out. So it was a really different friend group. But anyway, it was cool. I came back to the States, went to college at the Berkeley College of Music in Boston, and then moved back to Atlanta after that, and had different experiences.
And what did you focus on in college in music? Was it what you're doing now, or was it more composition? Or
It was, they try to make you as well-rounded as possible. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of music theory, we had arranging classes, but my focus was music production and engineering. So there was an acoustics class, so you could really get what's the reflection coefficient of this plaster wall over here. I was told there would be no math, but there was math. But yeah, as and then you would have to turn in recording projects. So this is what, propose a thing. This is what I'm going to do. This is my budget. These are the people that I'm going to get to play on the session. Here's the songwriter. Here are the performers. And okay, here, book a session at the studio and turn in your song, turn in your recording. All great experiences that really didn't prepare me for the real world where nobody's giving you a budget at all. And everybody just suddenly bought home recording studios of their own. And the world of pro recording is getting much, much smaller.
Yeah, but mastering is still very important. And that seems to be where you saw that almost a little bit.
It's funny. I thought I was going to be a George Martin or I think
Steve Albini.
Yeah, Mitchell Froom, I think, was a big guy at the time that I liked. I still like him a lot. But those people are all well connected and know how to get money. So you can't really be a producer at that level unless you're already in that system somewhere. I wasn't. I tried to be a recording engineer. I was a recording engineer. It's pretty good. But I went to mastering partially because a lot of the bands I was working with didn't know what it was, and when they weren't gonna get their records mastered, they were just gonna somehow plop it on CD.
I'll be honest, I only in the last 5 years really feel like I started to understand what the importance of mastering an album really was.
Yeah.
And even what remastering is, and I know you did like a lot of the Allman Brothers reissues, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, a lot of live recordings and one really big comprehensive box set.
How do you approach mastering an album for the first time versus mastering a reissue or a re-release?
I think a lot of so mastering for the first time, you're thinking about the market that record is going to try to meet. So if it's a rap record or a new pop record or a hard rock record or a folk record, the person listening to it wants certain things. And I guess you're trying to put yourself into, what does this person expect? And how can has the artist gotten close to that? Or do I need to help them push it over there?
And it might even be like, where are they listening to this music? And things like that too,
yeah,
right?
For sure, yeah. So the artistic part of mastering is judging how close the team got to their goal, their sonic goal, and seeing if you can find what's really of merit, what's beautiful about this recording, and get it all the way to the finish line. Remastering, a lot of times what you're doing is maybe correcting past sins, if there are any. Sometimes it's not too often, but sometimes remastering is pointless, to be very honest. If somebody's done the job well before.
I feel like the only time I've heard it, and I'm not even who it would have been remastered for, but I feel like there was a lot of times over the years where it's people used to listen to this a certain way. Now they're listening to it over earbuds or
right.
And so that might be the main kind of adjustment that somebody might make on a remaster. But
yeah, so when CDs first came out, a lot of those CDs were made from tapes that were prepared for cutting vinyl. So they were compressed a certain way, EQ'd a certain way, and maybe they didn't sound so bad, but they weren't really what the producer and the artist intended. And they were at a certain loudness level. Like I said, there was no consistent loudness level, and there still isn't. Anyway, that's a big big subject.
We could do a whole episode on that. I feel like I almost asked you about loudness, and I was like, I don't know if I want to open that can of worms yet.
There's a really good book by David Byrne called How Music Works, and a lot of
love that book.
It's really cool. And
David Byrne's one of my favorite people on the planet.
He's really interesting. Really interesting mind on that guy. And he describes pretty well, I think, how the loudness war is ramped up, and now we're deflating from them. And so the previous sins you might be correcting are, well, somebody took the entire Talking Heads catalog and limited the fuck out of it. And it's no dynamic range at all. I'm not going to touch that, of course, but that's the kind of thing that you might be fixing.
Well, sometimes artists remaster their own records and they totally fuck them up too.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this is how it was supposed to sound. And
or remix them like that.
Yeah, we've already heard it, dude. Sorry, you're wrong.
Man, the Iggy and the Stooges Raw Power.
Yeah.
You heard the two versions of that.
Definitely.
Like, neither one of them sound good, but the Bowie version to me is by far the superior version of a bad sounding record. It's more creative. I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
So when did you move to Athens?
25 years ago, almost exactly.
And what was it? Like you graduated, or had you? I don't want to miss anything. But so if there's anything between graduation and moving to Athens that you want to plug in here, let's go. But
sure. So I moved back to Atlanta, and I was trying to find. I didn't have high school or middle school friends to go hang out with from the previous time my previous Atlanta era. They were all off somewhere else. So I started going to open mics and playing songs there and meeting people there, and found some friends. There was a guy named David Dalt, and he needed a drummer, and he needed a recording engineer. I joined his band and I recorded his songs, and I met another guy named Zeus Henderson, and he was in a pop band called Orange Hat, and I joined his band and played drums
at this point,
him.
you're getting a 2-for-1 deal from you, right?
Yeah.
So I bet you were super popular.
Yeah, they put up with my spazzy drumming. Anyway, and I met Kay Stanton through one of those bands, and as we got serious and started to talk about getting married and buying a house, realized that we couldn't afford anything in Atlanta, and the traffic in Atlanta will kill you faster than anything. I'd met Brian Poole.
I've never experienced traffic that's bumper to bumper and also going 90 miles an hour at all times. It's the most terrifying fucking thing in the world.
Oh yeah.
It's the only place I've ever experienced it is Atlanta.
I lost my license a couple of times in Atlanta because I learned how to drive there. It's a terrible place to drive. I'm a much better driver now.
But he wasn't like, you're not kidding. Like, it is like probably one of the fastest ways to die in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's scary.
If it isn't a traffic accident, then it's just the level of anger that you're in.
The years of your life that you can't get back.
Yeah.
That's rough.
So David Dalt, who introduced me to Kay Stanton, previous to that, he had introduced me to a friend of his from Columbus, Georgia, named Brian Poole, who lived here in Athens and would commute into Atlanta to play bass in the band. And when he left, that's when Kay came in. But I stayed in touch with Brian, and I'd met Ben Spraker.
He'll be here in about 45 minutes.
Better wrap it up. So,
oh, no, we got time. We're good.
So that's funny, like Kevin.
Yeah, no, it just worked out like that. It was funny. I was like, oh, well, sometimes you're like, oh, hopefully these guys like each other. It's like, oh shit, what have I done? I'm not from here. I don't know all those.
Black eyes because of scheduling. Yeah. So Ben was another super nice guy that, like, he's calling me up, just telling me like, hey, I really liked your band and I liked your guitar playing. I'm like, nobody ever says that. Wait, are we friends? Cool. Okay. So I moved to, Kay and I decided we'd move to Athens. We'd look for a place, and the Elephant Six thing was going here. Let's get there. And as soon as we moved here, all those bands were breaking up or like having big lineup shifts or whatever. So we missed the main era of that. We were big fans, and some of it was still going on. So we continued our band here, which was Casper and the Cookies, and just plugged ourselves into this scene.
Are you a fan of alliteration? Is that important to you? Because it's important to me, and I like.
Yeah. I like alliteration, but it's like puns. To me, it's like a cheap literary device. But to me, I like junk food too.
Yeah, but especially when you're talking about like a band name or something like that, where it's got to be something that punches somebody immediately.
Yeah, our band name is a whole other story. I don't like it, but if it works for other people, that's fine.
I was just thinking about the alliterative nature of it.
I thought for some reason that because Will Oldham was able to get away with changing his project name for every release, that means that anybody could do that. So I was going to go by a new name for every record. And I was going to go Casper Fandango and the Knees. It was Casper Fandango and his Tiny Sick Tears. And then it was Casper and the Cookies. And it was going to be Casper Fandango and Soft Rhombus. But as soon as I got other people into the band, they were like, no, keep that name, man.
You got outvoted in your own band. That sucks.
Like, oh, man, I was right the whole time. But,
So you meet Ben and you moved to Athens.
Yeah.
And
got an internship at Chase Park. I did the time-honored tradition of getting a job at Dial America, and then I worked at Belgian. And then
Are they hiring right now? Because I am looking to relocate, perhaps.
I think they're always hiring.
Oh, sweet. Okay, good.
Yeah. So I did that, and the reason I really ended up in mastering was because I got really burned out recording other people's music. It's if even something that you love, if you've got to spend way more time, it's like being stuck in traffic in a way. Like I could be doing something else right now.
Yeah,
this is pointless.
Totally.
Even if you love it, if you don't love it, it's even worse.
We're good.
Okay.
I'm just checking everything out.
Right on.
Yeah, we're in good shape. One of these mics is on, but that's okay. Anyway.
So the reason I liked mastering was because you still get to interact and improve music that you're working with, but you only need to spend a day, 2 days max. So if you hate a record, it's only a day. If you love a record, you can spend all day with it. And then I figured I actually had some facility in the art of mastering, so that's...
What were some of the first records that you mastered where you felt like you were like really starting, it was clicking and it started to feel natural and like you were doing the right thing?
Let's see. I'm not sure what the first one was, but when I started to work with Vanessa from Pylon in her supercluster project, I didn't master that record, but I'd started to master records by the time that she was talking about doing a Pylon reissue campaign on vinyl. I said, talk to me about it. I'd love to consider me for the project, knowing you could get anybody great to do it. And she put me forward and everybody agreed to let me master this 4 LP box set. And that was a big risk for them, I think. And I knew that I needed to rise to the challenge. When I did, that's when I was like, okay, I know that I can do this now. If I could make this goal, don't disappoint this great band.
There's this moment in Cameron Crowe's last documentary about Tom Petty that they're like sitting on the bus and they're like, Tom's got a guitar, but I don't think he's not playing it at the moment, and they're just having a conversation, and Cameron's like, and he's like 25 at this point, and he's like, I'm not a director, I've never directed anything. Like at this point he's just like interviewing
Gotcha. Okay.
Tom Petty and on the road with him, and he's like, pick up that camera, and he picks it up, he plays, and then Tom plays a song, and he's like, now you're a director.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's like one of those moments where it's just like you get put into the right position by the right person and you rise to the challenge, and then, but then that builds the confidence to keep going.
Yeah. So my actual transition into mastering is like that. I had been working at Uber Prints, the on-demand T-shirt printing company that's here in town. Mm-hmm. And the way that their computer system was set up, you're supposed to you go to work and you see how many jobs there are in the hopper, basically, and you try to do as many of the easy ones as you can. But if there's like a room full of people on computers, some of them have figured out how to look at a different list and scoop these easy jobs so their numbers look good. And the people that are running the company are looking at those numbers. And if you don't make those numbers, then you're not a good employee. Meanwhile, there's somebody like wanting to print t-shirts of some Polaroid from 1976 that they've scanned badly, and it's going to make a terrible looking shirt. Somebody's got to save this shirt. And that's okay. That's the only one in the queue that nobody's choosing. Why are there 3 shirts in the queue and it's just this one crappy looking shirt? I guess I'm going to have to do that job. It's going to take me an hour. And it's going to look bad on my numbers. So I basically got fired because my numbers were bad because everybody was stealing jobs from a different screen.
Man.
And I got fired. I was like, what? Ain't that a kick in the pants?
We have min-maxed our way out of everything good in this country.
I was like, it's really crazy that so my mindset is I'm a very detail-oriented person.
Mm-hmm.
So I was fine doing those jobs, but the fact that I was reprimanded for doing them just didn't make sense to me. You need somebody to do this.
Yeah, I worked with a team of graphic designers for a while, and we had our production artists that would get out the quick and dirty jobs, like the ones that are clean and they just needed to get done.
Sure.
And then we had the artists that would actually create something. And they were just different roles. They were both important, but they were just different roles.
That you can't see that you need somebody to do that. It's just weird to me.
Yeah, that is wild. Fuck that place.
Fuck that place.
Yeah, don't get your t-shirts there.
Fuck Uber Prints.
I don't even know if they're still around.
I'm sure they are, and they are still hiring.
Oh, sorry guys.
Always hiring. So my first contact was to David Barbie. I was like, look, this just happened, and I'm looking for any opportunity at all. My dream job would be mastering engineer at Chase Park, but you've got somebody doing that, I know. So just if anybody asks for anybody, let them know I'm around. And David said, actually, our mastering engineer just moved out of state, and we're looking for somebody. So it was really meant to be in a way. And I've been there almost 10 years now.
What are some of your, if you don't want to pick favorites, that's fine. But if you do want to share, what are some of your favorite records that you've mastered over the years?
Ooh, I should have prepared this list, because there's a lot of records.
Well, I'm one of these guys too, where I can tell if I asked you the same question tomorrow, it might be a different answer.
Yeah, it really might be. Pylon box, that Allman Brothers, it's like a 12 or 14 LP box set. Those are major undertakings. There's another Allman Brothers project that's going to come out. There's not a date set for it yet, but it's going to be like the best of the unreleased live stuff.
When you're doing something of that caliber in terms of, instead of just something that isn't already being followed by like millions of people, is there pressure?
Oh, for sure, man.
That is.
Yeah, and then you got some records nobody reviews them, and other ones everybody's got an opinion. So we did this record called the Final Note, I think, the last recorded concert that Duane Allman played. He did 2 sets, and somebody recorded the first set on a Kmart cassette in the back of the theater with an ambient microphone. And it sounds like garbage, and I worked on it, and it sounds like slightly better garbage, but it's historical. But somebody's going to go to the store and put their money down and buy this thing and get it home and be like, who mastered this shit? Oh, it's this guy.
Do you lose sleep over those people?
I have before.
Yeah.
I don't anymore.
That's good.
I did what I could, man. Yeah. You should have heard it before.
Right.
But there's even like Bo Bedingfield is a great songwriter that
I know that
I've
guy.
done a little bit of work for.
Gosh, he was playing in Eye Candy for a while, and they came through Tallahassee a few times.
Okay.
And I would always that's how John Neff and I first started hanging out. Was back then. I'd known him from the Truckers a little bit here and there, but
man, Neff, wow.
We got into Two Live Crew on the Destin Beach, and
Oh, wow,
I will
perfect
never
place.
forget that night.
Man, I remember hearing Two Live Crew on a Walkman in the back of the school bus. You could say that?
He is a I don't even know how true this is because it might have just been that one night, but John Neff loves Two Live Crew.
I believe.
It's just a rumor I'm starting.
That's hilarious. No, yeah, I bought it. I bought it sinker.
We really did watch a shitload of Two Live Crew videos that night.
The reason I said wow Neff was because he's on this new record that Mike Richmond of Love Tractor has got a record that's currently in production, I think. It's not been announced what label it's going to be on or anything, but it was recorded with Matt Tamison, somebody else you should talk to. And the band has got Joe Rose on drums, David Barbie's on bass on some of the songs, Ben Hackett's on bass on other songs, and I'm going to miss some people. John Neff is laying down some pedal steel on a bunch of things. There are other folks I'm forgetting, I'm sorry.
I love watching him play, man. He's such a beast.
He's just the tastiest. And
Really
I love that if you're a pedal steel player, you're working on an orb. You're trying to like dance on an orb. There are no frets, you know what I mean? And intonation is so hard to do on those things. I've never touched one because it's frightening as hell. And if you're just a little bit out, then you're ruining things. But if you're on,
right,
it's this whole beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is very delicate.
So
it's
the guy who's the biggest Two Live Crew fan anybody's ever known is actually like the Buddha. He's just in the moment, just so calm and yep, yes.
very precise.
Very precise.
Yeah,
But not in a
mechanical way.
in a very fluid way. It's just so beautiful to behold. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is just absolute. Just I don't know. I just get goosebumps every time I see him play.
Too bad he's such a jerk.
Yeah. No, I was supposed
I
to
don't want to
interview.
give a big head.
We call him Pajama Neff on this podcast because that's how he likes to record most of his sessions. Apparently, that was something slightly famous somebody started when they were on. But he's not feeling it right now. He was actually supposed to meet with him yesterday, but that asshole canceled. I think he's faking sick. He just. When you're mastering something that is being released on multiple formats, streaming, CD, vinyl, let's say all three, same release, how do you approach each one of those formats differently? Is it a totally different thing, or is it the same exact thing, or somewhere in between?
To me, it is not a totally different thing. It's a matter of if I am actually so to master something really means you're fixing it to its final form. So if I'm doing digital files, I'm mastering. If I'm doing a CD master, I can create an image of that CD. That's the master. And those are very similar mediums as far as what kind of dynamic range you're delivering, what's going to happen to them later.
And people are listening to them in similar settings too.
Right.
You're not mastering a record for a car stereo.
Exactly. But a CD, you're going to listen to it in your car probably, if you're old, or you're going to listen to files or streaming on earbuds or in your car. So you got road noise, certain things, you still have to have it loud enough to get over some obstacles like that. But an LP, somebody else is going to, unless you have a lathe, and I don't yet, although if you have a lot of money and you would like to give it to me, that's what I'm going to do with it. Give me a lathe.
When I buy two, I'll let you know.
Thank you. Yeah, do that. So
Utah, two.
So somebody on the other end of that lathe is going to decide what their equipment can tolerate. So I'm going to give them something with more dynamics, not a ton more, but I'm going to let them do the job to the best of their equipment's ability and their knowledge. So sonically, they're going to sound very similar. Like to the point that if I A-B'd them and they were the same volume, the same loudness, you probably wouldn't really be able to tell the difference which one was which. But different things are going to happen to them so that they're different. But it's just me trying to make it sound as beautiful as possible, like I want to hear the space around the instruments to the degree that is the intent of. It's always just trying to grab the intent. I don't know.
What do you think is going on, like, with the future of vinyl press? I think lathe cut is gonna have to be a big part of it because there's only one company making the lacquer plates anymore.
This is a very
This is like actually like a
question.
big
Yeah.
deal in music, and if you're not paying attention to this and care about vinyl, you absolutely should be.
Yeah. So for 2 years now, I've gone to this conference called Making Vinyl, and it's a lot of people who manufacture, they press records, a lot of record pressing plants, a lot of people who supply those plants and things like that. So those people are thinking in numbers of millions of units. And they've made formulas of more bio-friendly, to some degree, material where they can press records without taxing the petrochemical reserves or whatever. And
that stuff's
polluting
really
things.
volatile too. Like it's dangerous.
Yeah,
like
well,
those plants are very dangerous.
But the lacquers that you're talking
Right.
about, that happened earlier in the process. Those are volatile and dangerous, and it's very hard to come up with a recipe for those things, and hard to keep that from blowing up.
And I think it's really hard to build a new plant
Yes,
too because of all the
EPA
regulations. Yeah.
might be a little easier now, but not for the right reasons. Let's not get into that.
Yeah.
But even
Yeah.
another,
We're a very leftist podcast, but we don't do a lot of politics here. Unless I'm like interviewing like an activist or something. Sure, but
yeah,
it's not why I'm here. I'm not here for the entertainment division of the military industrial complex.
yeah. I heard you mention Zappa. We could get into some Zappa too. But anyway, so the issues there are myriad. We don't have a lacquer manufacturer. So lacquer, if anybody doesn't know, lacquer is the standard way that records get mastered. Is somebody cuts the record into a lacquer. The lacquer then gets plated and turned into stampers that become the records that you buy.
And they only have a certain number of pressings before they have to be replaced and redone.
But
Usually
the
around
but the lacquer gets used once.
Okay.
The lacquer itself is
See,
only,
this is a part of the process I don't think I realized.
yeah. So the lacquer gets, I'm going to get this wrong because it's been a few months since I reminded myself what the whole process was. But so the lacquer, it's taken to the electroplating plant, and they cover it with a layer of silver, like 100 microns thick, I think. And then they put it in a tank, and they put it in there with electrical charge and a bunch of nickel, and the nickel gloms onto the silver, and then they rip those things apart, and that's the first step of the plating process. And then they replicate that first one until they can get as many stampers as they think they're going to need, and each one of those stampers is good for whatever 1,000 records. Or something.
Okay.
But you can make a whole bunch of those fathers or converted.
The stampers.
Yeah, talk to me later after I've reviewed the process. I'm going to want to embarrass myself. Anyway, so yeah, but the lacquer that starts that whole process is the thing that is the most difficult to manufacture, and nobody's stepping up to the plate successfully. They've tried.
No pun intended.
Good one. That's coming back to you, that improv. So there's a couple of ways to get around it. One of them is direct metal mastering. The process used to be called DMM, but it's basically just copper, using copper instead of lacquer, but you have to set your lathe up differently. It's a whole thing. Nobody in America wants to do it. People in Europe do it sometimes.
Does it sound different?
Yeah, it sounds a little different. I think it sounds good. I think a lot of people have preconceived notions about how it sounds, and maybe they had a bad history with buying a DMM record back in the 80s. But the fact is, we've all got those records.
Yeah, I've gotten records that are pressed now that like maybe they tried to cram too many songs onto a side, and so the grooves. Yeah. Anyway,
some
whatever.
Sound
like
good, some sound bad.
Exactly. That's just how it goes.
But so my point is, like, they found a way to make the material to press records more bio-friendly, and find other materials to do that with. But they haven't, because the scale is so much smaller, exponentially smaller, they won't put the money and the resources into developing another kind of compound instead of lacquer to cut masters into. It's just not rewarding. Meanwhile, the entire record industry, or like 95% of it, is dependent upon this one factory in Japan.
Yeah.
To not blow up. So it's crazy, and I want somebody to fix it, and I wish it could be me. But
Well, I think it's another example, and this comes up. It's almost become the theme of this fucking show at this point, where it's like the maximizing efficiency and profits and diminishing returns and all this shit. At the end of the day, that's what kills. That's why everything sucks now. That's why everything sucks. It's not COVID. COVID was the excuse they used to just fast track a bunch of that shit.
Right.
I call it min-maxing, which is like in gaming. If you're not familiar,
I'm not familiar with
okay,
gaming.
so like in like gaming, like they might try min-maxing would be like if you're doing the minimum, you're trying to get through a game without upgrading your equipment or something like that throughout the game as efficiently as possible, mainly.
Oh, I see. So
And maxing would be the opposite. It's like you're trying to, I want to do as much damage even though it's pointless or something like that. Even though it's like way more than it would ever be needed to beat the game becomes how much damage can I do? And this is just an example, but
okay.
this like minimizing and maximizing efficiencies and profits, and it's been applied to everything now. And now if it's not profitable, but things have to be somewhat, even if it's a labor of love, like it has to be something that like maybe the person's not going to lose everything on. Like it's got to have some kind of return on investment, right? But the idea that it's not going to make them enough money to make it worth their time. It's not going to make enough of a difference to them in their profit margins to invest in this thing that's actually going to preserve music in a way that we're seeing it now with CDs. Like they're ones that were sold in the 80s and 90s, they're starting to oxidize. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you can listen to records from 100 years ago, and I don't know about sound good, but they'll sound the way they did then.
Yeah.
And so the historian in me is panicking because then you think about like the universal fire.
Yeah, you're like, oh, tape is a very stable format until you like flood it or
and
like set it on fire.
Trusting the same people to to preserve this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying to me.
Yeah, at some point, everything is temporary. So I'm not trying to sound like that senator who's like, oh, yeah, we're all going to die. But
no, but
I guess what I'm saying is like, I think some things are going to get lost, but.
I'm thinking about my conversation with Kevin, actually. He talked about how important it was to him to have the physical record of his dad's music. And then how that became what drove him to make sure all of his music comes out on vinyl. And so even if it's not about preserving it forever, like maybe it's just preserving it for... My point is I just think if we lose this medium, we lose more than just the snob's way to listen to music. We're losing like something way more substantial than that.
It's a complicated thing to do to play a record, but it's not so complicated that you can't put one up in space with instructions for an extraterrestrial life form to follow. Play it back.
Whose record are they playing? Is it my copy?
Aliens stole my fucking records, man.
Oh, yeah, but that's my thing too. Is like I'll trust like somebody to play their own records all day long.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
My instructions to play my records are going to be a lot more detailed.
That is true love. So not only did Kay and I get married, wear rings, buy a house together, we merged our record collections and we play each other's records, and that's just as intimate.
That might be the most intimate thing I've ever heard about a couple ever, actually. Not just the merging. It's the playing it. No, I like emotionally. Like that's trend. I mean that as somebody, and I can tell we're the same kind of like nerd when it comes to that shit. The fact that you trust somebody else to just have like free range of your records is wild.
Well, beyond that, like we merged.
Yeah, they're not even your records anymore.
Got rid of the doubles. So
yeah, fuck.
If we break up, whose copy of Stereolab Dots and Loops?
Now, that's why you can. That's why you got rid of them. So now you'll have to stay together.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true commitment. Man, I feel like I could talk to you all day. What have you? I feel like we haven't talked about your music very much at this point, and I'd like to.
Sure.
It sounds like it's something you had to put on the back burner at times, and you're focused more on the engineering stuff and mastering stuff now that you've been
I've changed
just writing. But I feel like we like got to a certain point, like, okay, you're singing for this band in Germany.
Yeah.
What happened then? What was like kind of the next stage in your songwriting, performing evolution?
I had bands the whole time, and I guess.
Can you just name drop? Here's the name dropping portion of the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. I had a band in college called the Blossoms. These bands didn't release records. It was just like we wanted to, but. And then in Atlanta, I played with a band called Feierabend and Orange Hat, and my buddy from the Bad Habits, we had a band called Mangled Duck. And then when I moved back to Atlanta, our band was called Atlanta Becomes a Man. And then he started the Shut Ups, and I started Casper Fandango and his Tidy Sick Tears. Let's see. The list of bands that I've played in is crazy, but as far as who I've written for is pretty much Casper and the Cookies from that point out until that ended. And Pylon Reenactment Society was starting up, and we started to write songs together, which was a very different process.
Were you playing with them before you did that box set, or was that kind of that kind of come together at the same time, or
they were the same time? But no, the PRS record we didn't start to make that until 2021. But we'd been writing for it. The box set came out in 2020. We'd been writing for a record that was going to get made, and then COVID happened, and blah blah blah. But yeah, 2015 is when PRS started in earnest. So PRS is a democratic band, much like Pylon was. But Casper and the Cookies, it was more on the Beatles or XTC or one of those.
Gotcha.
A different kind of political system where like the songwriter is the person who tells you how the song's going to go.
And they also, sounds like they sing it.
Typically, yeah. Unless they ask somebody else to sing it. So with PRS, it's much more of like that's the way that Casper did it and the way that the Shut Ups do it is great. It's the way I was brought up, but I really like the sort of democratic form of songwriting where it's sometimes it can be more like a Ouija board. I don't know what we're doing, but something's getting spelled out. Suddenly there's a song. Somebody's going to have to work on it.
That's like a true collaboration that you don't really hear about very often in music. It's like the people might write their parts sometimes and things like that, but
things get refined too.
Sure.
Some kind of a freeform jam. Somebody's going to have to say, well, that part's good and that part's not.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the raw materials came from a group improvisation.
One thing Kevin said he ran into when he was trying to do like the remote recording was that like without any kind of feedback, like you just start going down like a rabbit hole before anybody could pull you out of it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this is almost like the opposite of that. It's
the mindset that's really been important for me to develop is the ability to, I can go down a rabbit hole, but the reason that a project gets done is when you learn to discern what's important and what's not. And otherwise you can spend forever and never get anything accomplished. So when do you know when a song's done? I don't know. I've written a song in an hour, and I've written a song that I've never finished writing since I started. I rewrote I've Had Enough.
Did you?
I'm still rewriting it.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah.
I'm 53. I wrote that song when I was 11.
Tell him, Steve Dave.
So the important thing is to be able to zoom in and zoom out and be like, okay, this is as good as it needs to be. Like nothing is ever perfect. Maybe you can get a perfect song. Good for you. fucking congratulations. But there's a tolerance, there's a percentage level where it's as good as it needs to be.
Sometimes an artist, it's like they don't realize it's done, and then they spend too much time on it, and and being able to like let go of something like a balloon.
There are records that might be a little bit better if somebody had just not thought of 3 more things that they thought had to go on it.
Exactly. What do you have going on coming up is there anything you want to talk about and promote? Is there anything you...
Yeah. The Shut Ups have a new record coming out in a month.
Fuck yeah, I'm excited.
I
love that new song.
Oh, cool, thank you.
It rocks, man. It's great.
It's a crazy record. It's called Proverbs. It is 2 CDs. It is, I think, 27 songs or something like that, and it's quite long and quite comprehensive and really good all the way through. PRS is writing right now. I'm working on the Olivia Tremor Control's 3rd and final record, and those are the main things. I'm going to be starting a new record with Vic Varney. He's being very patient with me right now. What else am I forgetting? I'm doing a lot of stuff with Henry Owings, having to do with Barbecue Killers and Limbo District and a lot of more historical kind of Athens and Atlanta musics. So a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Do you consider yourself a preservationist when it comes to music sometimes?
Untrained, but yes.
I can feel it. I feel like we're the same way in that respect. You're like, oh, these bands never put out records. I was like, I still think it's important for you to tell people what they were called. You know what I mean?
I see that. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was always the guy that so Chris and I started working together as kids, and he's written a ton of songs. I haven't written quite as many. He has no interest in learning how to record. I do. So I've got the equipment. Now I'm keeping the tapes, and this just started a way of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So preserve the audio, organize the audio, be able to find the audio when you need it again. Don't crash your hard drives, et cetera, et cetera.
Back everything up.
3, 2, 1. Yeah. And I'm trained in that way. And because of the Pylon box set, because everything Henry's given me, I've had to develop ways to organize my work
and create your own systems.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure that they're not as good as they could be.
But they work for you. They're yours. And
yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for that, because you know who Hank Green is? I don't know how to... He's done so many different things. He's all over the place.
I'll hear about him as soon as I leave. I'll be like, oh, yeah, that guy.
He just uses he just put out a video the other day that was really inspiring to me. He's like, I don't really have goals. I just have my tool set, but the most important part of that tool set is me. And so your systems being for you, I think that's the beauty of doing something for yourself instead of working like a 9 to 5 and being a wage slave or whatever the fuck, where you're not getting to build systems, no matter what they're for, in a way that works for you.
Yeah, it's a weird world, because while I might paint myself as the more responsible party in some situations where I'm the archivist and I'm recording the songs or whatever, because that's unpaid, I have to admit that I am more than fortunate. I don't know, the luckiest son of a bitch on the planet that I am married to somebody who loves me enough to be a wage slave. Now, she likes her job and everything, but she's got to do this thing every day until she can retire so that we can have health care, so that we can have a roof over our heads.
Yeah.
And it's no fun. She wants to be she's an artist too. And I don't take it for granted for a moment. But if you look at every failed great artist, failed in terms of numbers of sales numbers or whatever.
Sure.
Every artist
if you want to use that as a metric.
Yeah. If you could avoid drug and alcohol abuse, keep yourself out of the gutter, and still not manage to sell enough records to buy your mom a house or whatever, then you probably have somebody in your life that's helping you get through.
Yeah.
And at great expense to them. So
Well, shout out to Kay.
absolutely, she still kicks ass on stage and writes and does everything that
I would love
do,
to talk to her
you know?
next time I'm in town. So
Let's set that up.
Yeah, let's do it. Hey, I feel like we could talk for another hour, but
Yeah, there's a lot of people I meant to mention. Gregory Sanders, for instance. But yeah, there's a thank you so much for.
hey, yeah, this has
giving me
been
your time.
great. We'll have it up in the next few weeks, and anything you want like linked in terms of promo that you didn't already anything you mentioned, I'll put links in the
Okay.
description.
Thank
But
you.
if you think of anything else, just let me know. You got a couple of weeks before it comes out. So
All right.
I have one in the can before leaving town, so I like whatever I record here is at least 10 days out. So
That's still pretty quick. Like some,
I try. I'm a one-man operation, so if I sit on it too long, I literally, from booking to marketing, I do every step of the way. I do a little bit of AI for transcripts and shit like that, right? Like the stuff that I think is okay to you, like the stuff that nobody wants to do. This is the last thing I'll say before. Why the fuck is AI making art instead of doing our laundry?
for real, man. There are good ways. I have worked on a couple of AI records for a friend of mine
Yeah.
that are great records.
Cool.
But
I'm not like anti it, and I'm not anti anything
Yeah.
universally. Like that's stupid.
Right, but I know I've got other friends who are just as close who fucking hate anything to do with AI. So we're in this weird tender
Yeah,
moment
it
right
is,
now, and
yeah.
I get it. But I'm
I don't
using
think
it.
I land either side of that. I think
I needed some way to help me manage projects, manage my time.
Jason Nesmith, this has been awesome. Thanks.
Much obliged. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was my interview with Jason Nesmith. I had a great time talking to him. What a really smart dude. I feel like we could have talked for hours and hours. I feel like that was just the tip of the iceberg of his knowledge. I feel that way with everybody I sit down on this show with, to be honest with you. I've been very fortunate to be given the time with some of these people and with all of these people. And I just want to express my gratitude to everybody that's been on this show so far and that has agreed to do it already too for future episodes. Next week, we're going to do something a little different. We're going over to the Swanee Kids Music Camp, and I'm going to find out a little bit about the history of it, how it's operated. The Swanee Kids Music Camp is held at the Spirit of the Swanee Music Park, which is where the Allman Brothers held their fest for years and years. It's where a lot of music festivals happen, and the kids' music camp was always part of the plan. So I sat down with a few of the teachers, a few of the organizers, and had a really great time out there. It's something that I took my daughter to when she was a kid. Anyway, so look forward to that. Thanks for tuning in this week. Make sure you check out the Shut Ups record, Proverbs. Also, the Arcs album, Athens Avenue, just came out yesterday, so check that out as well. Make sure to go pre-order that Decoration Day box set because it looks sweet as hell. What I've heard sounds great, and after talking to him, I trust that he did a great job. He's brilliant. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, y'all. This is Overeducated and Underemployed. Click that like and subscribe and all that jazz. Take us out of here, Sloan.